Somebody's wearing a wire. I call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Monday, November 6, 2017, at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 p.m. I appreciate anybody that's here, other than election folks. Looks like that's probably what we got most of. We'll try to get out of here early so you can get set up. All right, would you join us for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do you hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Looks like Teresa's going to give us, I hope, some good news. I did read it, so I think there is.
Good evening, it's good to see y'all tonight. Teresa Osborne from Dowdy & Osborne, CPAs in Nags Head. I'm here to present your annual independent audit, which we completed back in October for your June 30th, 2017 fiscal year. I think you all got your reports last week, and you know the report's about 59 pages long, and I'm not going to drag you through all of that tonight. I do want to just highlight a couple of numbers for you. If I could get you all to go to page 14. I'm just going to go over a couple of highlights with you tonight. So, over on page 15 is the statement of revenues and expenditures for your governmental funds, which includes your general fund. And your general fund includes your operating general fund, and it also includes your capital reserve fund, which for reporting purposes, they have to be combined on this report. And it also includes your beach nourishment capital project fund. Well, first let me just tell you, the town's received an unqualified audit opinion on its financial statements, which is the best opinion you can receive. Additionally, there are no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that have been noted in the internal control reports in the audit. Revenues exceeded expenses in the general fund by $376,669. This was largely due to revenues that came in over budget projections and expenses under budget projections. If you look on page 17, which is just the general fund, you'll see that $376,000 in the third column, kind of down towards the bottom of the page. So that's revenues over expenses for the year. Sales tax, occupancy tax, and land transfer taxes were very strong last year. They increased due to growth in those revenues, but they also increased for the town as a result of the town's increased prorated share of your total tax levy in comparison to the rest of the governments in Dare County. And that's because your tax levy increased based on the 12-cent municipal district tax and the 4-cent beach nourishment tax that you implemented. So that's part of the reason for those increased revenues. The town's unassigned fund balance, and I'm going to flip back to page 14. The town's unassigned fund balance decreased from $6,139,000 at June 30th, 16 to $6,055,000 at June 30th, 17. And you're going to see that on page 14 in the first column, kind of near the bottom. It says unassigned, it's under the 235. So that $6,055,482 is your unassigned fund balance. That's a reduction from the prior year of $83,850. Which is actually pretty good because you had actually expected to use more of your unassigned fund balance than you actually ended up using. During the year, you all did a budget amendment to pay off $500,000 worth of debt for the fire station, and you were, anticipating using fund balance for that. You also did about $290,000 of stormwater improvements, I think after Hurricane Matthew came along. So between that, you had $792,000 that you were planning to use out of fund balance. Well, you actually ended up not using any out of fund balance because you added the fund balance by a little over $300,000. After deducting the town's working capital, which is your emergency fund balance amount of 3.5 million from that, that leaves you a remaining unassigned fund balance of $2,555,000. The town's tax rate for the audit year was the same as the prior year at 34 cents. 4 cents of that was restricted for beach nourishment, and in addition to that, you had the 12 cents for the municipal service district tax that was designated for beach nourishment as well. Also effective last year, the town was required to restrict a portion of its sales tax revenue, and that was because your tax levy increased because of that municipal service district tax, and sales taxes are distributed based on your pro rata levy. The state makes you restrict a portion of that sales tax for the purpose that that MSD was implemented for. So when you add up that 4 cents, the 12 cents, and then the part that was restricted for, from sales tax, and then you subtract out the first interest payment on your bonds that you all made last year, you transferred $924,000 to your capital reserve fund, which will be sitting there for future beach nourishment needs, whether it be debt or maintenance. The town's tax base increased about 2% last year. That's up from the 1% increase in the prior year. And the tax collection rate was about 99% last year. I'm here to tell you, you've ended the year in a really great financial position. I think things look really good. I'd like to especially thank Liliana and Marlene, who were a huge help to me when I was here. They both do very good work, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just a comment, I think, for council, so that we don't lose sight of something here that's going to happen next year, and that is, I expect Nags Head to reincorporate a municipal tax for beach nourishment, and that, because ours is up as a result of our doing that, it'll go down next year, assuming other towns like Nags Head do the same. Am I correct?
You are, and there'll be a year delay in that, so if they actually implement that in the, next year in their that would be their 19 budget, the actual effect of it won't take place for a year.
Yeah. All right, but I just want to make
But
sure
you're right,
we
yes.
understand that we're in good shape right this minute, but that's not going to hold true forever, so keeping that in mind. And I appreciate you doing the audit and the fact that it come out so good. And that's a testament to our staff and management, looking at it very close. And we're doing a revenue type thing where we're expending what we expect to get versus some other ways it was done before. So you don't see any problem with that, do you?
I don't. I would say that looking at your 17-18 budget, which is the current year, I think your revenue estimates are a little bit less, well, let's say they're probably more conservative, is that? Less conservative, yeah.
Yeah.
They're,
But still conservative.
Andy has, he's had a couple of years of being here, and, a lot had already happened before he got here with revenue projections, so this is really the first year for him to really be able to zero in on those. And, it's unlikely you're going to continue to see, if the revenue projections start tightening up, you're not going to see these continued additions
Right.
to your fund balance.
Right. Well, he was tested under fire when he got here. There's no question about that. So he had a lot going on for a new man. Anybody have questions for Teresa? All right, Teresa.
Great
Thank
report,
you.
Teresa.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. You saw the report, and I laid a question for you about the firehouse. Does anybody have a question or want to do anything with that at this point?
Our question is that an expenditure that we will not have to worry about later and that will balance everything out, that we won't be saying, why did we do that if some expenses come up?
That's the question she's asking. If council directs you to pay off the firehouse tonight, have we got everything else covered? When I say everything else, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind, we've got one more pipe to put in for the pumping stations. All right. I think you've got that covered, right?
It's in the budget.
turtle trawling, is that covered?
Yeah, that's,
Because we elected to put all sand out and not, and to eat the turtle trawling, okay? And you've got in the budget the Moore Shore project, right? Okay. So if we pay this off and you've got all those already covered, then we're still gonna have a surplus.
right,
Is that a fair statement?
yeah, fair statement.
Okay. You see a problem paying the thing off at this point?
No, I mean, there's not the funds are available. I think we probably, on top of the $3.5 million that's set aside, a part of that $6 million reserve, 3.5 always has to be there
That's right.
according to council policy. But it is good to also have a little buffer, $1 million or so out of the $2 million that's in excess of that. So we could, if that's the
Well-
council's desire, I think the
The firehouse is about 1.8.
1.3 million, I think, left on it.
Okay, so, so if we pay that off, we still got
About
quite a cushion.
$1.5 million. Right.
Okay. Council? You want to pay that firehouse off?
Let me ask you, we don't do it like this anymore, but what percentage are we in our fund balance if we have a catastrophe like they had in Puerto Rico? The percentage of reserve that we have to operate the town,
We still have the 3.5 million we set aside for that
but
kind of
what
purpose.
percentage is it? 70%, 75% of our total?
No, we didn't do a percentage.
But I'm asking what the percentage is that?
I don't know.
Okay,
Yes.
I started talking when I left, and I thought, I need to hear that.
Do you know?
So I think the question you're asking is what percentage is your fund balance of your annual expenses?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's about 75%, yes.
Good.
And actually, your expenses are kind of artificially inflated for last year because it includes the 500,000 for the debt payoff and the 290 for the improvements. So, it might be a little, without those in there, the percentage would be more. As your expenditures increase, the calculation changes, but it's 75%.
okay,
To do
good.
the,
Thank you.
can I just clarify? It depends, if you have a major project that you're looking to do, which I don't think anything in that
Don't leave.
ballpark, and wanted to pay that. But currently, the interest rates are at an all-time low, so that 2.5 million extra has been sitting in the account, gaining
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas we're paying 3% on a fire station loan. So to take half of that, obviously, we're not gonna have that payment moving forward, and we're not gonna be paying the interest. So it would make more financial sense to go ahead and pay that debt off and not pay the 3%. And so it's sort of like giving yourself, you're losing out on the 3% interest a year on that money by just sitting there collecting nothing in the bank.
I sure would like to pay it off.
I agree.
All right. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
All right.
Motion to pay off the fire department.
Second.
Okay, do I hear a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I want to clarify one thing on the percentage thing, and that is, the percentage thing is not really static because it depends upon an inflation or deflation of revenues in and out. In other words, the 3.5 million is a static figure, but that's dependent upon how much money we take in. This year's been good. We might, like the crash came, it would have been less of a percentage of the overall budget.
Right, but just in my general mind, I'm just thinking, if something was to happen like it did in Puerto Rico, we could operate for 3/4 of the year.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Run the town, basically.
yeah,
We
yeah.
wouldn't be out there fixing
No,
much,
no,
but
no, no,
we'd be
no, but I
running, the police would still be operating, the fire
My
would,
little reserve fund tells me that's 3/4 of the year, we could still do what we do
yeah.
here and supply services.
Yeah, if Puerto Rico came to us, we can get trucks to us, they can't, so. It's a whole different ballgame. And besides that, the ocean might be here on 158, so who knows, but that ain't happening. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for standing by.
And what we can do, staff will bring that back to the next meeting, probably through a budget amendment as well.
That's why I pulled up.
All right,
Don't we make a payment in December anyway, normally?
I believe so. Twice
Okay.
a year.
All right. Well, be good to burn that mortgage if we can do it. All right. Okay, public comment. Anybody signed up for public comment?
No, sir.
Anybody want to speak at public comment? Let the record show no one came forward. Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving right along, we didn't have anything come off of it, so, planning. We have, schedule a public hearing. Do I hear a motion to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at Town Council meeting on December 4th, 2017, to consider the proposed text amendment to amend Section 42-1 definitions and add the proposed 42-528 regarding the permitting of accessory dwelling units.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All right, before we vote, Rob, can you come up just a minute? I have a question for you to research and bring some information to council. This is what's commonly called mother-in-law suites, that sort of thing. And it has a health department issue because of the septic systems that we all live under. I know that when a house is built, the health department sizes that septic system to the house. Right. Now we're adding something. Or we may be adding something detached that may require its own septic system. Have you talked to the health department about all those variables?
I haven't had discussions with them yet. The common thing that I've seen in looking at other localities is they have a caveat, which is one of the things that we put in ours, that they would have to have health department approval for the increased occupancy. Sometimes we'll see houses get a septic system that's larger than the amount of bedrooms that they propose to build. In that case, they wouldn't need to do anything. They just have to, have a sign-off verification that it's adequate for the increased occupants.
Okay, I don't want to get in discussion because we're not in public hearing. But what I'd like for you to do, if you can, talk with the health department and find out how this would impact things like, we have low-lying areas. And in fact, they have to have a lot of raised drain fields now. They, bring in soil and do other things. We also have some exotic septic systems with drain fields. We need more information about how that's impacted because it's possible we could be asked to pass something, a text amendment for something that's not doable.
Okay.
I'd kind of like to know the answer to that.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Very much.
Yes.
Okay. In other words, more information is better for us to make a judgment.
Right, okay.
All right, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the public hearing is now set. New business, we have some proposed policy changes, and I believe Melody's going to do it? All right. Council, I would ask you, since there's several different things going on here, if you would, as she does each particular item, ask questions, if you have them. If you don't, then we'll move on.
Okay, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. As we go through these, please stop me and ask questions as you have them. And just for everybody, I'm Melody Coucil, I'm the town's management assistant, and I'm here to talk about proposed personnel policy changes. So, first one that we have is under Article 3, the pay plan, Section 4, starting and ending salaries. In this year's approved budget, the town pay plan was extended from 20 steps to 30 steps. As the range has expanded, our proposal is to increase our hiring range, which has been the first 3 steps of any given range, to the first 10 steps in the range. And the reason that we're requesting this is just to allow a little bit more flexibility in hiring exceptionally qualified candidates. The pay plan that we have is based on steps, and it does give us a great guide to bring people in based on their years of experience. And in the past, we've done a good job at that, and we don't have a lot of compression and pay issues in the town with people with more experience being paid less than people with less experience. And we have everybody pretty much where they need to be. So we are asking for that little bit more flexibility, going from 30 steps to making the higher range 10 steps. And of course, after the 10th step, if we thought we needed to bring somebody in at that, we would still request council approval.
In a percentage of pay increase, what, that range is about a 20% range? Is that what it amounts to? Is that what you told me? All right, so for percentage, we're talking a 20% above entry level. Okay? That's in
Current
there.
range that we're able to hire without having to get council approval is 6%, so it's going to 20%.
All right. Got it? Any question? Please.
Okay. Section 11 deals with pay rates when salary or pay plan revisions occur. And this one, I think, requires a little bit of explanation. We changed the language here to address positions undergoing a market adjustment. And there are a lot of terms thrown around in human resources. This policy does not affect promotions or reclassifications of a position. Those are addressed in separate parts of our policy, and we are not proposing any changes to those. So you may ask, what is a market adjustment? A market adjustment is when the pay for a job, the market dictates that that pay be higher or lower. It could be. In this case, we're talking about more adjusting the pay when the range is going up. So the person's doing the same job, but the market says that job is worth more. So, upon a market study, if it is determined that a job needs to be moved to a higher pay grade, the new language states that as budget permits, we always want to put that in there, that employees in these positions should have their pay increased exactly at the same percentage as the pay range increases. Current policy says that they need to be brought in at a minimum of the second step. And when I read this, it doesn't make sense, because if you have somebody who has 10 years of experience and is at a step 10, and the range goes up 10%, they should also go up 10%. And the way that our pay scale works, basically they would go to step 10 on the new range, because it's percentage-wise, it works out like that. Under the policy now, they may go to a second step, the second step, which then reduces their years of their credit for years of experience. And what else that can do is cause compression, because then if you bring a new person in, they're at step 1, there's only a 2% difference between the person that's worked 10 years and the person that is new. So that is why we're proposing that change. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, especially because we have a step plan.
Yes.
If we didn't have a step plan, then the original was some sort of a 5% adjustment, and then that was before you came, I think. And then because we instituted a step plan, then this was the last language that occurred. I think John Stockton did that. So that does make sense to me, anyway.
It makes sense.
Melody, let me ask this, the market dictates, you get those figures by a pay study that NAGSID would, of course, do. I understand what you're doing, and I'm all for helping our people out. But in talking to some other municipalities, it's a thought out there. Well, one of them told me, he said, what we really like, we love it when y'all do pay studies. Because what happens, we get a raise.
Well, I don't know if that's always true if you talk to the people that work at Dare County, but
What I'm talking about in the municipalities.
yeah.
And so aren't we, one town does it and sets the market price, then we raise up and that position goes up the next year. Then another town does a study and it goes up the next year. You're constantly getting those building steps. Eventually, we're going to end up pricing ourselves out of employees.
Right, but keep in mind that the ranges and the pay scale is approved by you. And so anytime that would change, that would be pre-approved by you. And I can tell you, in the 7 years that I've been here, this example has not occurred.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, this would occur if council did a pay study.
Correct.
Right.
We don't take our lead from other municipalities unless we did a pay study, and then that pay study was used, their pay study was used to our, to hitch to us.
Right.
But unless we do a pay study or do one in-house, in other words, we tell them to do that, that's not going to happen. So we would have to be the people causing that to occur in this instance. Whereas you're saying that if Nags Head does a pay study and the pay goes up, everybody in their county gets a pay raise. No,
Well-
that ain't happening. It ain't happening here.
What I don't want to see is, it gives good employees, we're losing good employees, and I don't want to see that happen. By them
I
going to
understand
another
that.
municipality.
Who
because
pays more.
They did a pay study, and all of a sudden, they jumped ship after we have trained them. We brought them through the ranks and worked them up, and then they leave because of a pay study done in another municipality, and we lose that employee.
Well, sometimes it works the other way, but
Right.
in any case, the argument they're making
This
here,
is discussion, just not my personal opinion.
the argument she's making here is something that we probably need to do.
Right. Okay.
I hate to ask this question. How long has it been since we've done a pay study?
I don't know. 2005,
I think we did,
2005.
it was like 8 or something, you know.
No,
Wasn't,
we,
My personal opinion, if it's been that long, it's way overdue.
I think everybody expects that, but anyway. Wasn't it done by,
The
council before, the Harris Council? So, and that was prior to '05, and that's when we got into some of the issues that we got into. All right, that's not the question here before us tonight. Anybody have a objection to what she's proposed here?
No, sir.
All right, please.
Okay. So we're now gonna move to section 15, which is overtime. And, this proposed change requires that earned compensatory time be taken before both sick and vacation time. Our current policy states that it should be taken before vacation time, but it is the best practice to make sure that you get that comp time off the books because it's worth money and it's payable, no matter how much it is, what it is. And as time goes by and you don't take it, when your pay rate goes up, so does the value of your comp time. So we're just trying to get that off the books first before vacation.
I like that.
All right, so we'll move on to Article 6, leave of absences. This proposal is about vacation leave. Employees here are in a probationary period for 1 year. However, they do begin to accrue vacation upon hire. The current policy states that they're generally not allowed to use vacation during the probationary period. Because 1 year is such a long time not to take vacation leave, exceptions are made to this policy on a regular basis. We're proposing a change just to take that out and say you can use your vacation leave if you've got it accrued and if it's been approved by your manager.
I think if you've earned it,
yeah.
it's vested as far as I'm concerned. And I was in the Coast Guard at a time when they wouldn't give it to you when you wanted it. So I have some personal experience with that.
People have needs for time off. People have needs for time
I
off.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, if they've earned it,
Not
they've
be
earned it.
pleasant.
It's that
And
simple.
using that time, it just might not be something pleasant. You might just need the time off.
That wasn't our policy, that was already there.
All right, item E is just a word change. We had been cleaned up, I think, before, but there's still a couple of uses of the word annual leave versus vacation leave. So we'll change that. That's proposed change again. And Article 6, leaves of absences, Section 5, workers' comp. There's a list of 5 things here. Basically, the purpose of this is to match our practice with our policy and just clarify so employees know what to expect in the event that they're on workers' comp. most of it has to do with how we handle leave usage, which if you're on workers' comp, you can't use your leave, and how you accrue leave. So if you want me to go through each one of them, I will, but that's generally what it means. Questions?
I don't have any
No,
questions.
No problem with it.
Workers' comp is something I never had access to.
Okay. Section 10, education leave with pay. We are proposing we remove this. Nobody really knows what it is or where it came from. It basically is a policy that says that if it's approved, we would grant you time off to go seek a college degree or something like that. It's never been used in my tenure. We currently pay employees when they go to training or seminars based on the Fair Labor Standards Act. So with the advances of technology and online learning and all of that kind of stuff, it just seemed to be a good idea to cross that one out. And also, I don't think that the likelihood of it being approved would be good because we can't spare any one person for an extended leave in general. So that's why we took it out.
I was wondering, it had a 13-week fully paid, 13 weeks, the magic of 3.25 months. Is that a semester? Is that, you reckon that's what that was?
Golly, I don't know what the.
All right, well, I couldn't agree with you more. That needed to go away and should probably never have been put in there. Anybody else?
Agree.
Agreed.
Section 12, administrative leave. I just updated the list of exempt employees. I took one off and added two, so let's just make it accurate.
Question on that. The ocean rescue director, now he came on, he's on administrative,
He's
or
exempt.
he's an exempt person now. He's not getting compensatory time and that, right?
No.
Because before he
Since
was
he's
getting comp
exempt,
time.
He's not eligible for comp time,
Okay. All right.
unless he works for fire and it's a whole different thing, but yeah, which is only under special
Well,
circumstances.
after the season, is he going to the fire department now? Is that what he's doing?
But he
so he's
still
on-
maintains his 37.5-hour week unless they're really short-staffed or something.
I
So,
got you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Section 3, group health insurance benefits, and this is probably the one that we crossed through and added and missed out and highlighted the most. First of all, under Section 3, Item A, we updated the list of current retirees and what they're eligible for, just to have it on record in case something happens and, you know, somebody has to walk in and see what is what. Also, when we changed the policy back in 2013, we had left some language about being reimbursed for Medicare for certain employees, and then it changed effective after 2013. No one was eligible for that. Since no one is eligible for that now, and it's been 4 years, I deleted that, so it just doesn't muddy the waters. The people that are and have been already using their benefits, and nobody going forward is eligible for that. So
Okay,
that's why I took that out.
is, the reason there's a disparity between what one person's getting and another in their retired status is there was some grandfathering going on there. Hopefully, we're over that.
Right. Okay. So, item C, retiree health insurance through the town's insurance plan. Again, I think this is left over from something. It stated that retirees may have the option to go onto the town's health plan. That's not an option. It's never been an option since I've been here. I don't foresee it becoming an option. So our policy or our practice, and it is said in there that if you don't go on the town's plan, we will reimburse you. So eligible retirees do receive reimbursement on a quarterly basis for their health plan prior to being Medicare eligible. So,
But not past any point that an active employee In other words, there's a limit on how much of a
Yeah,
plan.
That all stays the same.
Okay, in other words,
What the town pays, what the current rate is for the town to insure an individual active employee.
right.
Yes.
In other words, they can't go get a Cadillac policy, which has happened in the past.
And it's also based on years of experience. And again, in 2013, we raised the threshold.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And we did some consolidation in that section as well. Section 3, group health insurance benefits, item C and H kind of deal with the same thing. It offers the option for dependent health coverage. That's never been an option for the retiree to pay for dependent health coverage. They're on their own, we do not have that option. So struck the items that discuss that option and also how to pay for that option since it is an option.
The only question I have, since it was an option before, is will insurers even carry a retiree on the policy?
It depends on the makeup of your plan. And ever since, I've worked here at the town for 7 years, and it has not been an option on the town's plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure. All right.
Okay, any questions about that? All right. Section 14, educational benefits. We are proposing changing this section from educational benefits to tuition assistance. And we've also added a requirement that if you receive this benefit, you have to serve the town for 12 months after receiving the benefit. And if you don't, you need to pay back the town for the monies that you received for tuition assistance.
Like that.
All right. The last section is travel. Section 5, automotive travel, I just corrected a grammatical error. Item F, after talking with our legal counsel, we decided to not propose that as a change, considering travel companions. Section 7, under meals, we just added clarification. We've been questioned about this. Meals included with the cost of the registration fee, like a lot of times they serve breakfast and lunch, we're not going to pay a per diem on top of those meals that are provided by the conference. And then originally under rationale, I had common sense, but I've changed it to be nice. And then under section 13, submission of travel expense report, we have added language that when you submit for travel and submit your expense report, that you include a copy of the course summary or the outline or what have you, just so there's checks and balances in place.
Good.
I think
I
that was it.
I want to say that we appreciate the fact that you've gone through this. And I want to state for the record that we're very lucky to have you as our human resources. You're very knowledgeable, and you're no nonsense. I certainly appreciate that. I think all of us do. We're very lucky to have you, so thank you. Council, they need a motion.
Just be clear, you're taking 5F completely out about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that makes me happy.
You're talking about a companion?
Yes, sir.
No.
I was going to argue that point.
If you're in a government vehicle, you don't do that. Now, if they want to go on the per dime,
Correct.
use their own vehicle, have at it. But not in a government vehicle. That does not work. That's deep pocket liability stuff happening. That just doesn't work. Okay. We need a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I recommend a motion to approve the changes to the Town of Kitty Hawk's Personnel Policy Manual as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you again. Okay. Now, where are we? Town manager. And I have a question for you. Status of ditch cleaning.
I've reached out to the contractor who's bid on the project. I'm having a little difficulty getting a hold of the contractor. So really gonna give him probably this week. And then we'll take a look at the bids, and I'll probably meet with Willie and maybe go look at the second lowest bid, the cost for the second lowest bid of last time we bid the project. So if I can't get a hold of him, then we're gonna just probably recommend to disqualify his bid or, or move forward for not being able to contact him.
Was there a window that he had to operate?
He did, he had until November to begin the project,
Okay.
so that's kind of why I've sort of been delaying that a little bit.
Make sure Casey clears that. We
Yeah.
don't want to get in a dispute.
Yeah, there's some letters or some, some things that I'd like to send the contractor to cover us and know that
Have we
we've
paid
reached out.
anything in?
No, I haven't
Okay,
paid anything.
okay, perfect.
So he just hasn't called us back?
Just hadn't been able to get in contact with him. No.
And who was the contractor?
Sampson, wasn't it?
Sampson contractor.
He builds decks and fences
Yeah, he
and
did.
stuff. He does
Yeah,
pretty
I
good
maybe,
work.
like I said, I've sent a couple emails, phone calls. I'm gonna see if I have the wrong number, bad number. I'll verify that somehow. But,
Well, we got to get something going.
yeah, I would like to get a hold of him and at least let him tell me that he's not interested or what have
I'd be
you.
holding off for the cottonmouths to go to sleep.
Yeah, so we're still working on that, but yeah, the original bid did give him until November to begin, which is,
Okay.
we're in November, so.
All right, good.
I'll let Lynn, if you want, we have municipal elections tomorrow, just give a general overview for the general public, what that entails, what time and where they can vote.
Elections right here at the town hall, 6:30 to 7:30. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So come out and vote. Thank you.
And that's for the municipal elections. One other thing, we're gonna have a reception at our next, before our next council meeting, for our new fire chief. The reception will be from 4:30 to 5:30, and you'll all receive an invitation through email. And then we're also gonna get out, this year we decided, instead of, we usually do an after the summer luncheon for the employees. This year, we decided to move that towards Christmas, so to take that luncheon, instead of paying for it, then move it to Christmas. We all agreed that Christmas time, we all want to get together, but usually we're all baking and doing our own, bringing our own food, and it becomes a little hectic, so we're all going to meet sometime around Christmas, and I'll get out an invitation to the council as well once we select that date. But if you're wondering why we didn't have our end of summer celebration, that was the reason for it this year. We wanted to push it back a couple months. Other than that, that's all I have. Beach nourishment is completed. I think we're going to be doing the final walkthrough or meeting with the engineer sometime next week. The 16th, and so that'll be all completed. Great Lakes will be paid. Our finance director is going through all the calculations, making sure everything is added up and accounted for correctly. And she did an excellent job. I want to thank her. She was new this year for the audit, and it's a big task to complete an audit with no comments, no material weaknesses. We followed all our policies and procedures, and the finances are looking good. And one more, Bob Bent has stepped in and for the couple months that we've been without a fire chief, and we appreciate him doing that. He's got a lot of loyalty to the department and is doing a good job, and he's going to be that transition between the new chief that's coming in, so the new chief will hit the ground rolling. And Bob's been sharing and keeping in touch with him as well. So that's all I have.
Good. Mr. Casey?
All quiet on my front, Mayor, which is typically a good thing. Nobody's rattling the cages, so we're doing okay right now.
So you've stepped in a couple of times where we needed your help and kind of put a silence to it.
Yeah,
I've
that's
not heard anything back.
what we hoped for, so no, and nothing. I was gonna say, to the extent that I've had to get involved
I
in
don't
any
know about the rest of the
particular-
council, but I sure appreciate that. Thank you for that work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, town council. You want to start, Jeff?
Sure. I want to thank Bob for bringing the new truck out and showing us, and thank the crew there for putting it together, and looks like it's going to be a nice asset to the town. Thanks a lot.
I'm want to thank everybody who has done their job and done it well, and particularly our accounting department. Having a great audit report is, really makes it all come together, so that's very good. And we'll get the fire department debt off of us and keep on moving forward. thank you, Bob, for everything, and Bob, you have been taking care of the fire department, and be careful with the new vehicle. But enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you, Bob, appreciate it. You know, it says a lot about the employees of the town, it says a lot about the manager, it says a lot about the direction that the mayor, and also about the decisions that council has made over the previous years to be able to save enough money and have enough money aside, although to be able to pay that firehouse off, that's big. I have been on this council when things weren't as smooth as they are now. Not saying anything bad about any other councils, but the employees that have stepped up to the plate, they've cut when they had to cut in the past years, and now we're all reaping the benefits, and the town's reaping the benefits by paying this thing off. And so everybody's done a great job, and it's a privilege to be up here and to be in the town to be in this position to do that. And y'all guys done a good job, all y'all.
Just everybody.
Everybody.
The other thing I was, Willie, have you heard anything about the intersection, Islander flags, cones, DOT?
The state is holding fast.
Okay,
They kind of have the upper hand, they have the law on their side.
okay, I understand. I got a call today, just asked.
What are you talking about?
The state went and, when they closed the bridge down, they realigned some
Oh, okay.
cones and so forth to mitigate traffic through the intersection and towards, going back up to Barlow Lane and that area there, heading towards the bridge. Well, the folks at Islander Flag, who have 4 businesses in there, have had numerous accidents. I think you had one there Sunday, Chief? Yeah. Because it's kind of confusing, in their opinion. And I went and looked at it, and it's confusing in my opinion. But it's DOT, it's done by DOT standards, so there's not going to be anything probably that's going to be done.
Okay.
We'll make sure too, I know we were assisting, we're not gonna get involved, but, I know we'll also maybe the Jerry Jennings, we get with him, the main engineer, just so he knows, is aware of the issue. I'm sure he does, but a lot of times, if maybe we get to the right person, there may be another solution that they could work out, because it is, and I've been down to meet with her as well, and it is a little bit there's no way to turn off there, so it is a dangerous turn, in my opinion, but.
Yeah. The other thing I had is, we got a marathon this weekend. It's for a great cause, and get out there and cheer the runners on. They really will appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have good participation. I think the numbers are up from last year, which is a good thing, and hopefully we're gonna have good weather, and everything will be rocking and rolling.
Good luck with that weather.
It's kind of tough to run when it rains.
It always
especially
rains
26
when y'all
miles.
run. Every time y'all run, I still get ready to get my raincoat out.
Melody, great job with the presentation. That was very good. Liliana, thanks for your help with the budget. Very impressive. Bob, thank you for stepping in like you have and filling in that capacity. You've done a great job. Thanks to all the town staff. This is our last meeting, and Thanksgiving is just around the corner, so happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, well, just for the public's information, I know some people look at this later. In addition to the beach nourishment essentially being done, we also have one more piece of drain piping for pumping out, should we have a Matthew or even ocean overwash. And that'll be going down by Tate Way, underneath 158, so that the Rabbit Hollow side, the west side, can be pumped for those kinds of named storms where DNR will let us pump. That gets pumped to the ocean, not anywhere else, just like all the other flood water on the east side of 158. So that'll be the last piece of pumping stop that we should need. So we'll have beach nourishment doing something on the east side, and we'll have drainage available to us between the highways and west of the highway. And all of that has been done now within budget, looking towards it. So the future, hopefully, if we don't get storms, we're in great shape. If we do get storms, we're still able to deal with it. And that's what it's all been, that's what the planning's been about. So just so you folks know, it's coming down the line. And other than that, I don't have anything else. So, public comment. Last piece of public comment. Anybody? Yes, sir. If you would, please come up. Sir.
My name is Brian Morgan, and I have a quick question about the follow-on to the beach nourishment with regard to maintenance. Is the maintenance for hotspots, or is it forecast to follow up 5 years, 6 years? What does that look like?
The time period, barring storms and other events that speed it up, should be 5-year window, where you would normally do renourishment. In other words, the sacrificial sand that they are talking about will have washed away. You'll still have roughly a 60-foot berm from that, what you started with, and then you would renourish for sacrificial sand. If a named storm or something comes along and washes that away before that happens, then FEMA should step in, because we've done all of the homework necessary, the permitting necessary, to allow FEMA to come in and do that renourishment, that part of the damage from any named storm. Other than that, hot spots are not factored into it, if that's what you're looking into. It would be a normal process for the whole beach.
Do we have the flexibility to use some of our maintenance budget to address hotspots?
It's not programmed in.
Okay.
And to mobilize a dredge for that first cubic yard of sand is over $1 million.
Certainly.
So a hotspot just is not factored into something like that. So the answer is no.
Okay, so we would address it much as we did with the bathhouse area. We would wait for DOT to patch it, basically.
That, or, yeah, the way it's been addressed before. We have sandbags there. Now, I will tell you that there was a surplus of sand, and it was put in the bathhouse area,
Okay,
all right, because that's deeper.
right.
So we elected to do that. Turtle trawling cost us a little over $300,000, right?
Yes, sir.
We elected to bring that out of budget rather than sacrifice sand. So we used every grain of sand that we were counting on and paid for, plus the excess that we were able to get, because the storms that had brought sand in gave us a surplus to start. And we put that at the bathhouse in that particular area.
Yeah. Well, I genuinely appreciate everything that was done. That looks great. And, let's pray that it's right on time.
All right?
Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Anyone else? Let the record show, no one else came forward? Something?
Motion to adjourn.
Jabbering, huh? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.